Hi, good morning, everyone. I'll start with the introduction. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jana. I'm a consultant at Boerenbond, which is a farmers' organization in Flanders in Belgium, in the northern part of Belgium. Thank you all for joining today. I suppose some people will come in and join a bit later during the meeting. So just so you know, this meeting is recorded. So we will be able to share it later on the YouTube channel, so you can look back on it afterwards. But also the slides will be shared as well. I muted the microphones and the cameras during the meeting. If you have a question, we have a Q&A button on top of the Teams, so you can always ask your question through the Q&A. We will start with a short introduction on the project and on the topic of today, which is carbon farming, and especially how we can communicate on the topic and how we can market carbon farming. I will do the introduction and then I will hand over the word to Christophe Rees from Claire CO2. He will share some insights and experiences from their startup in Flanders on carbon farming and abroad carbon sequestration. And Marion Krol from the Netherlands will also share her experience from Go2Positive, also a platform in the Netherlands which connects local demand on carbon credits. After each presentation, we will have some time for questions, so feel free to ask your question in the Q&A. It's very important for us and for you, I think, to share all the questions and the information that you want. So feel free to ask your question there. Just really short on the speakers. So I already introduced myself. My name is Jana. I'm a consultant climate and sustainability at Boerenbond. We work on different topics with our team. We have colleagues that work on emissions, especially nitrogen emissions, but also greenhouse gas emissions. We have colleagues on circular economy and so on. We don't do research ourselves, but we really want to connect farmers with research and also ensure that research is as practical as possible and also responds to the questions that farmers have. Me especially, I work on the topic of soil, and especially I have some experience now on the topic of carbon farming. And today I'm your thematic lead in the Climate Smart Advisors projects on rewarding mechanisms, which I will explain a bit more in the coming slides. Christophe is from Belgium, from Claire. He is business development and Marcom. He will introduce himself when he starts his talk. And Marion is also here. You can see her on the screen from the Netherlands. She is a senior project manager and market and food chain at ZLTO in the Netherlands. So here we go with a small introduction on the Climate Smart Advisors and today's topic. Most of you will know the Climate Smart Advisor projects, but this webinar is also shared beyond the project partners, so that's why I still included a small introduction on the project. Our aim is to mobilize the European agriculture advisory community. So our target group are really farm advisors, and we want to accelerate the adoption of climate smart farming practices in order to become future-proof and be prepared for the climate change consequences. And within this big goal, we want to strengthen advisors' capacity in providing targeted advice. It's an ambitious project. We are quite a big consortium of 75 partners, which are spread over 27 countries. This is quite exceptional. It's a project that also entails 7 years. Some important things we want to do is we want to train 140 climate smart coaches who are responsible in their region for the community of practices, which is where we bring together different stakeholders on climate smart farming. It's mainly about learning from each other, sharing the knowledge you have, the experience, and how we can together facilitate farmers in taking the next steps. Also interesting for you maybe is to keep an eye on our website, because we will share training materials in the future, practice abstracts, and also a lot of videos and trainings in the 27 languages from the countries that are involved. And this is how it looks in reality. The beginning of May, we had a partner meeting, a second physical partner meeting in Almeria in Spain. It looks quite overwhelming, but it was a very interactive partner meeting where we shared a lot of experience, and we got connected and created new ideas. And yeah, it was a really good partner meeting to come together. And the added value for the project, it's the last slide on the project itself. So we really want to strengthen the capacity building by exchanging knowledge and experience in those communities of practices. We will host live and online trainings. We will, of course, create a repository. So this will be a collection of different advisory methods. We had a preview in Almeria, and I can say already that it looks very interesting to get started with different ways to communicate to farmers and to get involved with them. We also build a network connection on European level, but also on local level. And our biggest goal is a stronger role for advisors on the multi-actor innovation projects. All of this will focus on 12 thematic areas, of which we will go into depth into one today, the rewarding mechanisms. But as you can see, it's quite broad, and with those 12 thematic areas, we try to collect as much of the challenges as possible that farmers experience in regard to climate change, but also things that they can do to adapt themselves towards the different or the change in climate. We have some areas focusing on the animal aspects on a farm, but also on water and also more on technical level, the energy management, biogas production. So it's quite broad. And today we will talk about rewarding mechanisms. This is maybe a different one when you see it in the other 11 thematic areas. Therefore, we also try to create a framework, what we mean with rewarding mechanisms, so we have a bit of a scope. So we limit rewarding mechanisms to financial incentives that are offered to enterprises, farmers in this case, for undertaking beneficial climate actions. They should support viable farm income and improve farmers' position in the value chain. And they can support, on the one hand, the adaptation and risk reduction of farming practices to climate change, but also the mitigation, so the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, which also includes carbon sequestration in soils. The source of the reward can derive from different origins. It can be public, it can be private funds, insurances, and so on. I give here a few examples, but no, this is not limited, of course. It's quite broad and open to interpretation. But just to give you an idea what we are talking about, public examples could be the new CAP, where Europe introduced the national eco-schemes, but also the work that's been going on the new Commission's regulatory framework for certifying carbon removals. On private level, you have the global standards such as the gold standard and Verra, but also the two examples from today are on a private level. And then we also have funds like in the Netherlands, Stichting Nationale Koolstofmarkt, and insurances, maybe also not that obvious for some of you, but we wanted to include it as it's an important aspect in becoming climate resilient, but also in order to be protected to the consequences of climate change. So we have in Belgium, we have, for example, the insurance that's called Brede Weersverzekering, which insures farmers when a big disaster occurs, but also extreme drought. They are refunded partially for the damage that they experience. And I suppose many of the different countries here also have it in their region, something similar. So why are we organizing a key exchange event on communication and marketing on carbon farming? Maybe a bit background before we get into depth, but Boerenbond, my organization, but also ZLTO, we wanted to improve the business case for sustainable soil management. We noticed that there's a lot of benefits for the farmers when they work on their carbon content of the soil, as for fertility, soil health, biodiversity, but also resilience to climate change. But next to the benefits for the farmers on the long term, we also have benefits for our society, because we can collect more water, we can protect against erosion and so on. So there's an added value there for society. And therefore we thought maybe we can use this as ecosystem services to develop an extra business model or income for the farmer that's working towards this transition. So we started in 2018 on this project, and the two cases that are explained today here are also partially or entirely results from this project. So what did we develop in this project? We developed different tools to calculate the potential carbon sequestrations. We also did some work on the methodologies for credibility and MRV. MRV stands for monitoring, reporting, and verification. When you're a bit known with carbon farming, you know this MRV aspect is now very much under development and discussion regarding to the CRCF. And we also developed and worked on small-scale projects where we connected local farmers with interested buyers or compensators. We are very proud of the white paper that we wrote with policy recommendations, which we were able to hand over to Frans Timmermans. At that time, he was the president of the European Commission. And then, of course, we also worked on intermediary platforms to connect farmers with buyers, something that could be sustainable on the long term after the project's end. So the examples are Claire and Go2Positive, but also some others were developed at that time. We talk about a voluntary market. This is something that I wanted to emphasize in the introduction. So this means that it's not yet regulated. Therefore, it needs more explanation, more marketing and communication in order to show to your client that you are doing something in a good way. You're trustworthy. But carbon farming entails a huge potential for both climate mitigation as well as adaptation. That's really, if you could call it a unique selling point. But it is a struggle that it's not yet regulated at the moment to create a trust at the compensator level, but also on a farmer level. And how you communicate on carbon farming will depend on your target group, of course, but this will be talked about later on in the pitches from the two cases. Why carbon farming? The carbon farming market is a means to make a transition in agriculture towards more sustainable and robust arable soils. We don't want farmers to sell credits for the sake of credits. This is very important. We always explain this very well to the farmers. We should see carbon credits as a way to use them in a transition towards more resilience, towards climate change, but also as a way to receive support from society for their efforts, to receive a sort of appreciation from society that they are doing efforts to make our society more robust against climate change. It's also a way to reduce their own climate impact, to create more certainty in yields and less needs for inputs, and so on. So it's we can make a long list of all the benefits for both farmers and society. Why this webinar? We have many initiatives in regard to carbon farming that pop up everywhere in Europe, but also beyond Europe. Yet many of them indicate the struggle of explaining carbon farming to both farmers and potential buyers, and that's also what we experienced in some of the COPs, the community of practices within our project here. And it was on their request that they wanted to learn how others work on this, and to share some experience on how you can talk or communicate to companies that might be interested in carbon credits from carbon farming. So that's why we are hosting this webinar. And yeah, just keep in mind that communicating and marketing on carbon farming is only a piece in the puzzle. And of course, it will not solve all our challenges. The work that's been going on at the CRCF will also be very important. So keep that in mind when you listen to the two cases. So this is the moment that I give the word to Christophe, who will explain the work that they are doing in Clare in Flanders, in the northern part of Belgium, with their platform. Christophe, you can take over now, I think.
Yes, Jana, thank you for the introduction, and welcome to you all at this webinar. So what I want to do or want to talk about with you today is some general topics about Clare, followed by general insights about communication and marketing around carbon farming, and then some specific insights, or you could also call it lessons learned in communicating, in working with farmers, and also in communicating and working with companies. So let me introduce you to the three gentlemen who started with Clare, the three engineers. The gentleman on the left and the gentleman on the right are still in charge today. And the middle one, Noah, in the meanwhile, is CEO of Natuurpunt, which is an organization which is focused, amongst other things, but especially also to reforestry. I'm not on the picture. I joined Clare a year and a half ago, and I have a very specific background in marketing and communications. So I'm not an engineer, as the three gentlemen are. So first I want to start with you, and that's the next slide, with some introductory topics about Clare. So we started around 4 years ago, and we are a Belgian initiative. We assist companies in balancing their CO2 emissions through local compensation projects. What is very important to say is that we're a very small business. So we're actually with 3 voluntary team members. We have all our business next to Clare. So we work, let's say, in my case, 6-7 hours a week for Clare. And we have for the moment 35 clients company, which are all voluntary compensating. So if you talk about clients, we have around each year 10 new clients. What we offer are tailored CO2 compensation pathways, allowing these local businesses to support also local initiative actively engaged in CO2 reduction. And it gives a direct connection between companies and the projects they support. If we sell compensation projects, we charge 70 euro per ton, which is 55 going directly to the project and 15 euro, which stays at Clare for our general costs. We have a scientific board with professors from the University of Brussels, Ghent, and Antwerp, and our methodology aligns with the ISO 14000 verification standards. So every company that compensates with Clare receives each year a certificate about compensated tons. Also important to stress is that we offer a different kind of projects, which are generally divided in 3 groups. We have forest and nature projects. We have the agriculture projects and building and techniques. We will have some examples later on, but it's important to offer to companies who are willing to compensate these 3 different domains of compensating projects. And also important, last but not least, is the organizations we work with. Jana's organizations, Boerenbond, the Soil Service of Belgium, the Boerenbond Dienst België, and of course, already mentioned, Natuurpunt, highly dedicated to reforestation. Next up, some general insights. So what I will talk to you today is actually the lessons learned, the experience we had the last year working with farmers and companies. So actually you can interpret this presentation as insights and lessons learned. What did we learn about communication around carbon farming? Well, it's quite difficult, and there are different reasons why we experience it as difficult. One first reason is the complex technical language, carbon sequestration, regenerative practices, MRV. It's all technical jargon that dominates, and these concepts are sometimes hard to translate into plain everyday language that also resonates with farmers, but also with companies. When a company approaches, it's or the sustainability manager, but most of the time today it's a marketing and communication manager. So the translation of all these technical languages are not always very easy to understand the concept of carbon farming. Secondly, it's invisible long-term results. The results of carbon farming take years, not days. And in a world of instant gratification, this makes storytelling, of course, sometimes difficult. There's low trust and high skepticism sometimes. Farmers and the public ask who really benefits, who take the risk, who gets the reward. Valid questions, they need honest answers. And sometimes we also feel a very big difference between companies. For example, we are talking now to two major Belgian banks. One is not a believer, and then the other one is really much a believer. So it really depends on the people you're talking with and their own personal engagement towards our project. And then, of course, the disconnection between global narratives and local realities. Carbon markets and climate goals are global, but farmers work in local specific contexts. When I talk about or I talk with other people, for example, who work at Go2Positive, it's another Belgian organization, for them it's easier to sell projects in Africa, for example, than projects in a local environment. So this disconnection between global narratives and local realities is really an important topic. The next slide. So communication insights from working with farmers. Please understand it as lessons learned. Insight one, lead with real stories and not abstract science. Why? Because human stories cut through this complexity of the jargon and the working method. Real farmers' experience make the abstract tangible. It's peer-to-peer communication. It works well in businesses, but also here. And authenticity is critical. So no polished PR talk, but really honest voices from the field. And all the stories we make today with Claire are always an answer to what does this mean for me on my farm, in my soil, with my crops. So the personal motivation, the personal interpretation of the farmer you're working with is very important in this kind of communication. The marketing principle behind it is social proof and peer stories, which are the most powerful motivators. People believe people like them. So this peer-to-peer idea is very important. Examples, a content piece written out or video series, Meet the Carbon Farmers, short real-life farmer testimonials explaining what worked and what didn't. So transparency within the whole communication chain is also very important. Even it's a good project or it's a problematic project, always have this transparent communication. Second insight. First, yes, you can go to the next slide. It's an example of the story I mentioned. Two farmers from the Kruisberghoeve here in Flanders, and then we make communication tools like this, where one of these farmers says, yes, the better the soil, the better the yield. Of course, we are only 2 years in, but you can already see more soil life, more insects in the fields, and the soil holds water better. So this kind of direct communication, direct testimonials are something which are working very well. Second insight or a second lesson learned is frame clear, tangible value propositions. What do I mean by that? Carbon farming isn't just about carbon, it's about benefits farmers care about now. So healthier soils means less cost on fertilizer, better yields, water retention means resilience, and new income streams via carbon credits. So it's all clear, it's tangible value propositions, it's not abstract, it is something that we work on together with the farmer, but also in relation to the companies who might get interested in farmers' projects. The marketing principle behind it, focus on direct benefits to the audience, not just the goals, in this case of Claire. Farmers care about their land, their yield costs, and risk, not abstract climate targets. So an example from this kind of message framing could be stronger soils, better crops, a farm experts for you and the planet. So the personal experience always take first towards a sort of global or planetary idea. A third insight, make the invisible visible. Visual communication matters, language matters, because if people can't see it, they can't believe it. Visual metaphors are also helping. Soil as a sponge for water and carbon. Use infographics and animation to show soil life, the way it evolves, CO2 absorption, and before and after imagery is also something that works and shows fields improvements over time. Communication principle here is visual storytelling, simplifies complexity and creates emotional connection. You all know that we live in a very visual world, so good visual storytelling really makes a difference. Example tools are, for example, infographic series, what happens beneath your feet, or an animated explainer video, how soil stores carbon and why it matters for you, but also work with ambassadors. That is something you can see on the next slide. We have a farmer, Chris Herbout, yes, standing here on one of our events. It's very important that you create an environment where farmers and company owners can meet, much more than do a next LinkedIn post or a next electronical news message. It's this real life contact that always delivers us some clients more than any other communication. So that's why we work a lot with Chris Herbout, the farmer here in front of the picture, and also on the next picture, who is really willing to work with Claire as an ambassador. And if people contact us, do you have a farmer that can talk about carbon farming? We always refer to Chris because it's such a very good example. And it's always this idea of peer-to-peer communication in the way he convinces other farmers with his results. A fourth and last insight, the power of local framing, make global goals real. That's very important, and especially for Claire, because we're really aiming at this local compensation and making this connection between local farmers and local companies. Also to engage farmers, focus on these local crops, soils, climate changes, address local issues, can be drought, can be water quality, can be declining yields, and partner with local trusted organizations. And this is, of course, why it's so important for us to work with Boerenbond, to work with Natuurpunt, because they have their own audiences, but it's also a quality aspect that we bring in our discussion with farmers and companies. Marketing principle, localization makes stories relevant and actionable. People act on issues they see in their own field, not on distant global problems. Example of a campaign, carbon farming for the region, healthier soils, better harvests, featuring local farmers like we do with Chris Herbout, local landscapes and region-specific benefits. When we look on the next slides on the lessons learned with companies, it's another discussion. It's a harder discussion sometimes. So we don't have problems to find farmers in a way who want to compensate, but the real difficulty is to convince companies, and companies are still, as I experience it in my way, are still more eager to buy some forest in Africa than really work here on local compensation. So it takes a while to change this mindset. We're getting there. We have a good feeling we're getting there, but it's also depending on who you talk. Are you talking to a CEO who is really engaged? Are you talking to a marketing manager who sees the marketing benefits of local compensation, or are you talking to a sustainability manager? So they're all different kind of debates and discussions. So the first lesson learned: connect carbon farming to business value, not just climate impact, but as a strategic investment. A strategic investment is the topic we talk most about with CEOs. And then the argumentation goes as follows: supply chain resilience, healthier soils, more resilient suppliers in the face of climate change, future proofing against climate risk, anticipate future carbon regulation and avoid costly surprises. Also very important, proactive action shows leadership. Some of the younger generation CEOs are really focusing on that topic. Carbon farming, do something for the environment, and leadership are important topics in those conversations. And also brand leadership and consumer trust. Consumers of companies want real action, not fake pledges. Carbon farming offers this authentic, traceable climate action. So a positive story that always combines consumers, investors of the company, and regulators' value. A second insight in relation to companies. Well, this is an example of a company that works with us. It's Tomorrowland. It's quite well known worldwide. Tomorrowland is a festival which takes place in Boom, near Antwerp. And here we work closely together, where Claire goes in search of local projects in Boom, and you really experience here that local compensation sets something in motion, and that is exactly what both Tomorrowland and Claire want, to set something in motion that would not have happened otherwise. Of course, what Claire does here is only part, a very, very, very small part of solution, because we compensate for Tomorrowland a few hundred tons, but each year they have like 50,000 tons of pollution for each festival. So it's a very small thing, but the communication aspect of working with a partner like Tomorrowland is something which is very, very interesting for Claire. We're not only working with local farmers, but also with a school in Ghent, where the solar panels are paid by Tomorrowland. So we have a diversity of activities, and Tomorrowland is a good example and gives us some leverage towards other companies. Second insight in working with companies: focus on the co-benefits, not just the carbon. So improved biodiversity and soil health, securing long-term productivity, water retention, reducing risk from floods, community and farmer livelihoods, stronger social license to operate, and a corporate sustainability principle. Even though it's not mandatory, we focus on the nature-based solutions with stacked benefits, more appealing to CSRD, ESG frameworks. So the co-benefits, not just the carbon. A third insight: make it measurable, but set realistic expectations. We talk a lot about companies, and they have really high expectations. They want to be the best student in the class, but also here, be realistic, be transparent. Although companies want numbers, they need the context and the honesty of working with farmers. So what we advise is communicate what can be measured today. Be transparent about what takes time to measure and the actual tons of CO2 sequestered, and show progress tracking frameworks. Even if imperfect, some data is better than none. So starting with local compensation is a first step. And along the way, we help these organizations with communicating about the positive impact of local compensation. So message framing, here's how we track our impact and what we're learning along the way. So it's very important for these companies that Claire also helps them with the way they can communicate about what they do. So we're also part of a middleman between the companies and the farmer to keep them on the same track when it goes to marketing and communication. And the last insight in relation to companies, position carbon farming as a brand differentiator. That's of course the most marketing and communication, the most important aspect. When you talk with marketing managers or communication people in companies, brands that invest directly in farmers and soil can stand out from brands just buying credits. So it's also this mindset, then you can do more than just buying the credit. Storytelling opportunities, traceable products, grown with regenerative practices, impact videos, co-branded farmer initiatives. We also have companies that then with their people, with their teams, go to the farmer, take a look what the investment is all about. So this close relationship between companies on the one hand, farmers on the other hand, is something where you can have a lot of marketing and communication value. So I think my last slide, sort of conclusion, when we talk about companies, it's a new storyline for companies, local compensation, and marketing people and communication people are always eager to have this new storyline. So that's probably a way in. Carbon farming is not just an environment story, it's a business resilience story. That's for us a very, very important topic to always use in our debate and our discussion with companies. So make carbon farming a strategic investment in supply chain security, communicate to go benefits, build on honest, transparent narrative, focus on the progress, not the perfection. So this transparency is very important, and differentiate your brand with real action, not fake claims. Call to action for companies: if you are serious about climate leadership, resilient supply chains, and future-proofing your business, then partner with farmers and local organizations. Co-create real impact. Invest in long-term soil health, protect your value chain, and tell authentic stories. Consumers will value real grounded action. So that was it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Christophe. So this is the time that you can ask your questions to Christophe. In the Q&A, at the moment, I have not seen any questions pop up. So if something comes up later on, you can still add it to the Q&A. Christophe will stay here until the end of the session. I have a question for Christophe. What do you find more difficult, finding farmers or finding companies to buy credits?
For the moment, finding companies. And if we find a company, it takes 4 to 6 months before they decide. So it takes a very long time to have their mindset right and to make a decision. Yeah. And I think partly that has to do with the fact that you can have a question from a CEO, a marketing manager, or a sustainability manager, but at one point they all have to talk to each other what we're going to do, and there's the bottleneck.
Yeah, and as Boerenbond, we are a bit in charge of finding the farmers when there is a request from a company, and it goes quite well. If you have, especially when you have a clear question, a demand from a company, then farmers are willing to make time to make a project plan, to think of their rotation for the coming 3 years. So the demand aspect is really important before farmers take action to really engage with Claire. Okay. At the moment, I don't see any extra questions, but yeah, you can still add your question during the next presentation. And if you come up with a question afterwards, I will share my contact details also at the end of the presentation. So feel free to contact me later on as well. I will give the word to Marion from, sorry, just one question, and then we can just go to the next presentation. We have a question on the approach to find companies. How do you, what's your approach to find companies through specific networks, LinkedIn?
Well, what we do now is, on the one hand, really one-to-one communication. So I really write personally to companies. And next to that, we organize some events. So 3 weeks ago, we had an event for companies here in Ghent. And that works quite well, those two. We also, of course, post LinkedIn posts, but the most reaction we have is on one-on-one mails that we send to companies where we present Claire.
Okay, I think that's a clear answer to the question. An extra question is, somebody mentions that they heard recently about the carbon credit from Amazonian forest, which were never converted into real reforestation. It should help for promoting local carbon farming. Do you make use of this, or how do you look at this?
Well, we always start from our own strength and not. We also have this big South Pole thing last year where everything was a bit unclear about their credits. But we start from our own strength and really this idea of local compensation. In shortcut, you don't have to go to Africa. You can help here your local businesses with local compensation.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it for now. We can go to Marion's presentation, and let's see if we have some additional questions at the end of Marion. Then we can see who can answer the question. Marion, you can start. I will go to through the slides along your presentation.
Yes, yeah, Jana, thanks for inviting me, also for giving this presentation. And Christophe, there are a lot of similarities, I think, in how we work in the Netherlands and how you work in Flanders, only that you have it really thought through as a marketing and communication specialist. So that's for me, it's also interesting to hear all your insights. So Jana, we can go to the next slide. And so I will explain about the Go2Positive initiative, our initiative in the Netherlands. It's CO2 positive, Go2Positive. So it sounds well. So go to the next slide. So as Jana explained, our initiative, we started it from this Interact project. We started in 2018 and we launched Go2Positive in 2020. So in my story, I will first explain a bit about ZLTO, which is my organization, then what is Go2Positive and why the methodology we apply, why do farmers participate, why do buyers participate, and how we keep them involved. So the next slide. So ZLTO is a farmers organization like Boerenbond in Flanders, an association in the south of the Netherlands, and we have 13,000 members in all different farming sectors, representing 6,500 farms. And we as an organization, I have over 130 colleagues, but so about 130 FTE. And we do lobby work, we do projects, and we do individual advice for farmers. And so what is Go2Positive? It's a platform connecting buyers with local carbon farmers. We as ZLTO, we act as an intermediary. So we are the organization connecting farmers with buyers. Currently, we have 40 farmers in the network, so 40 farmers participating, sequestering carbon. We have 13 buyers and almost 8,000 certificates sold. And one certificate equals 1 ton CO2 sequestered. We have a quite high price for each certificate. We ask 140 euros for each ton CO2, and that's also what the buyers pay. So we need quite some money for preparations, soil samples, so the MRV, the monitoring, reporting and verification, because we do take soil samples, and I will explain a bit more in the methodology, but also for communication guidance of the farmers. So we ask 40 euros for each ton CO2, and 100 euros goes to the farmer. 70% of this based yearly, we pay yearly based on the actions, on the measures taken, and 30% in the end based on the result measurement of sequestered carbon. So next slide. So this is the methodology we apply, and we use the methodology of the Dutch national carbon market, because the Dutch national carbon market, they provide for methodologies, different methodologies for carbon sequestration or for reducing carbon emissions. And they have a methodology which we can apply, which we apply, but we don't ask the Dutch national carbon market to certify our program, because they, but we don't have independent check on our program, but we do apply the methodology. So the measures that can be applied in the project by farmers are adding cover crops, so using cover crops, but also using a longer time, have so like 2 months, or have cover crops for the entire winter season. Change crop rotation, so have more crops that are less demanding for the soil, so more crops of grains, grass, etc. In your crop rotation. Permanent grassland is one of the measures, so have your grassland as long as possible. Adding organic matter, can be solid manure, can be compost, so adding organic matter, and leave crop residues on the fields. So these are the measures that we can calculate potential carbon sequestration. Then there are several conditions. There is this condition that at least 75% of the farming area should be part in the project. Project's duration, at least 5 years. So we ask farmers to participate at least 5 years, but we also ask them to maintain their activities for at least 10 years. And we see that once farmers start changing their way of farming, they also maintain their activity, so they don't stop after 5 years. It should be additional to current policy, and there is this way to interpret additionality, how the Dutch carbon market does it. They look back like 3 to 5 years. So what a farmer did 3 years ago is not additional anymore. So those are the conditions. Then the MRV. So we take soil samples at the start of the project and after 5 years at least. We make these carbon sequestration plans, the CO2 plans, using the carbon calculator of Wageningen University. So they have a carbon calculator using the ROTC model. And in this carbon calculator, we can add the measures under the measures, and we can make a carbon sequestration plan. And this is really a very important tool. It's important for the farmers, and because it makes it very visible how much they can sequester in the next years. And it's also a very important tool for the buyers, because it really gives credibility to the buyers because of this cooperation with Wageningen University using their tools. that it is correct, or it's right what we are doing. And then we yearly monitor the practices of the farmers. So if they really implement their practices, and then payments 70% based on the yearly monitoring of activities, and 30% so based on the soil samples in the end, the results. And then why do farmers participate? Well, like Jana said, for us it's not difficult to find farmers that are interested. But we find also that not all farmers that are interested can meet enough this condition of additionality. So we really have to make the calculations to know if this farmer can sequester like enough carbon using this additionality criteria. But farmers want to participate because for them most important is healthy and resilient soils. That this was already mentioned before. That is the most important reason why farmers want to change to carbon farming. They also want to participate because they want to show that they are part of the solution, that they can actually contribute to societal challenges. So that's a very important reason for farmers to participate. They also participate because they want to be appreciated. They feel good when participating and when they can really help society. And then the financial reward is important, but it's not the most important one. So next slide. And so this is one of the participating farmers. We also communicate a lot. And this farming is saying, the soil is our most important capital. So that's what we as farmers, that's why we changed to carbon farming, because we really want to take good care of our soils. And we mainly work at the local level, and in communication we communicate a lot at the local level. So this was an article in the local Rabobank magazine, so the magazine of the bank that most farmers participate. Both farmers have Rabobank, but also a lot of companies have an account with Rabobank. So this was communicated in this Rabobank magazine. Next slide. And we communicate a lot about the projects that we really do, and about also the buyers participating in projects. We also have one big event, buyer of carbon certificates, and it's a very large open air event. But it's a walking event. So it's 4 days walking in the surroundings of Nijmegen, one of the cities. And so the walkers, they walk through this farming environment. And so this compensation or this carbon sequestration also takes place in this farming environment. So that is why this event is participating in the project. And so yeah, we communicate a lot, and farmers really like it that they are that we communicate a project in local media, in regional media, and sometimes also in national media. So some of these examples. Then the next slide. So why do buyers participate? Because of their sustainability ambitions, because it's local. They want to support local projects, because these projects are very tangible and transparent. And that's also what we do. So we make local connections. We make it very tangible. We connect farmers and buyers. They know each other. And it's very transparent. And Here on this picture, for instance, one of the buyers at the farm, we put this plate there and we make a picture of the farmer, the buyer, and this is communicated in local media also. So, and we tell the USPs. So, one, carbon is removed from the atmosphere and fixed in trees, soils, and bio-based products. And the same what Christophe told you, that we have to explain a lot to buyers because they really don't understand what carbon farming is. So we also have materials. I don't have that in this presentation, but we have materials explaining about photosynthesis and all those things that, and I say, remember your classes, in biology at the secondary school, you learned about photosynthesis, and this is what this was. And I see them, these companies really looking, yeah, my biology classes, what did I do in that time? But anyway, so we really have to explain how it works. We really connect buyers and farmers. We organize meetings, information meetings on the farm, and we explain the additional benefits. So also for improved soil health, biodiversity, for a better landscape and water conservation, all also at the local level. So then the next slide. So we connect, and then now you have to, we connect to, this is an example from one of our buyers and their sustainability program. And in the sustainability program, it's different ambitions that we can connect to carbon farming. So the first one, Jana, click, because you have to click again. Yeah, exactly. So environment. So this company has two big issues on or ambitions in their sustainability program. One, environment, and the other, social and society ambitions. So in environment, click again, Jana. We have climate. They have climate ambitions. And for us, it's easy to connect to climate because carbon farming is about climate change. So that's easy to connect. But the next one is about the natural environment. So we can connect to the co-benefits. We can connect to the co-benefits for water conservation, for biodiversity, for the impact of this company on, for instance, biodiversity. So they can support carbon farming and do something also connected to their ambitions on biodiversity. And this is all part also of the CSRD. So with carbon farming, we can offer companies not just on climate, but also on other issues. We can offer them input for their CSRD reporting. So for social, good employment, that is something important for many companies. And we heard that the companies we work with, our buyers, they want, it's not easy for companies to get your employees. So what they do is they show to their employees, because their employees come from the local surroundings, they show their employees that they are supporting the local surroundings where these employees live. So that's also a very important reason why they support local projects. And then regional responsibility. So we connect to all these ambitions in the sustainability reporting. And you can see that this company also refers to the Sustainable Development Goals, and we also do that. So next slide. So we explain companies that when supporting carbon farming, you're not just doing things on the Sustainable Development Goal on climate, but you also do something on biodiversity, on on water and on sustainable production and consumption. So next slide. And we have our own certificates we make. So each company, each buyer gets a certificate, and we mention these for sustainability, so SDGs. And we also put the farmers on the certificate. In this case, this company works with we have a collective of 11 farmers in the city, in the municipality of Moerdijk. So this company knows these carbon certificates are created by these 11 farmers in Moerdijk. And so I already mentioned we cooperate locally and we explain what carbon farming is. So these are some examples of meetings that we have between farmers and buyers. So the first picture is when is with the 3 buyers in the municipality of Moerdijk visiting one of the farmers, explaining how this farmer is explaining what he is doing differently and explaining all the difficulties he meets, etc. And it really makes it very understandable. So the other picture is the start of the project in another municipality. Farmers, some of the buyers, but also the local, what is it again? Wethouder, local politician. And anyway, what's again the word?
Councillor?
Yeah, like a local councillor in the municipality also supporting the project. And then there is one picture of where we see the table. This is the complete management team of one of the buyers, because the CEO owner, he wanted to have his complete management team to understand why they are supporting this project. So also his financial manager, his sales manager, etc. So they visited with this complete management team, one of the farmers, and then I explain about carbon farming, and the farmer explains how it all works in the fields. And one of the pictures to the right is we also organize information meetings. So not only when we already have buyers, but we also organize meetings to explain interested companies, and we invite them on the farm and we explain how it works. And these meetings, usually few companies join these meetings, only the ones that are very interested, but they are really interested. So these are very good meetings. Next slide. And we keep them connected. So each year we have this happy ceremony when we hand over the certificates of the previous year. We make pictures, we communicate, and we see that the buyers, the companies themselves, also communicate. So that is the next slide. It's one of the examples of one of the buyers putting it on LinkedIn, very proud that they support this project, and this really is also good advertising for our project. And we help them. We create like stories that they can tell. And this one, I think, is one of the last, is one example in the financial daily magazine in the Netherlands, newspaper, the Financial Daily. So it's really, this newspaper is read by all financial world, and so and we had a big article in this newspaper, and then afterwards I get new contacts and questions, and this is also very good helping in to make the initiative more known. So, and then maybe, I don't know if I still have one slide, Jana. Yeah, with more examples, communication in media. And what we also found, because we also do some communication on LinkedIn, And I have a picture with this one.
This one?
Yeah. No, a picture with the
but
back. Anyway, so maybe you have to click twice. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Here you see it.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. That's what I wanted to tell. We tested on LinkedIn what do companies like to see. And we had some LinkedIn posts with companies and the industrial part and saying something about carbon farming. And we had pictures with, and that's probably the next one. It should come on top, but you can't see it. Oh, that's a pity. But I can tell what's on the picture. It's a farmer. And we found that LinkedIn posts explaining about carbon farming as a climate opportunity for businesses. The pictures, the LinkedIn post with farmers on it are much more appreciated. We thought we have to put a company, but farmers do much better in visuals and communication. That's what we found out. So to resume our project, we start projects on demand by buyers. That's what we can do, demand-driven. But we also start projects supply-driven. So because our members want to start a carbon farming project. But we only start projects in areas, in municipalities where we can cooperate, for instance, with the local municipality or a local organization of companies that know the companies in the area, because we don't know the companies. We do work together with stakeholders that know the buyers, because that's the way we can connect to them. So demand-driven and supply-driven. We calculate potential carbon sequestration, take soil samples, applying this methodology of the Dutch carbon market, and we communicate a lot, presenting the local carbon farming and explaining what carbon farming is, how it works, using this scientific substantiation, for instance, this tool of Wageningen University, because credibility is very important, and we actively use media together with our local stakeholders like local newspapers, social media, etc. I think this is my last slide. Yeah, how to continue, I don't know, but what we learned that in settings, so finding buyers not just for offsetting, but in the food chain is becoming more and more important. And for offsetting, we think that this CRCF is really very important. And we hope for a very simple system in the CRCF based on local transparency, because, yeah. Okay. Questions?
Thank you, Marion. I think it was a good addition to the previous presentation, also with a lot of practical examples and a lot of work that has been done. We have one question already in the Q&A. Please feel free to add your questions if you still have something you want to ask to Marion or to Christophe. Someone is mentioning the additionality, because you talked about it, considering the conditions to implement something new or additional to the farm. The carbon farming scheme is probably not so suitable for more advanced farms that already do these activities on their farm. For example, organic farms. Am I right?
Yeah, we do have organic farmers participating, and I think that is maybe one of the reasons why we do not work with a certificated program with using this methodology of the Dutch carbon market, because this methodology is very strict and we can be a bit more flexible, because we do want, and also organic farmers can still add to additional activities. So we do have organic farmers participating, but it is really, and it is something we also gave back as feedback to this Dutch carbon market, because we told them, if if you apply this very strictly, it will become very difficult, because farmers that are interested are already doing things. So shouldn't we change this way to use additionality? And this is big discussion. Shouldn't we change it to a more standardized a baseline instead of an activity baseline, so that we can go like differently with this additionality? So it's really on debate. And but it's a very good question, because we always have farmers interested in these projects that are already doing things. The ones that are not doing anything are not the ones joining our meetings.
Yeah, I think it's also something that we recommended at the end of our project, Marion, to the Commission, that there's a very big importance to ensure that those front runners are also rewarded and involved. Because if you disappoint them, then you can have a very negative framing on carbon farming, and then farmers will stop participating, I think. And it's also something that's under discussion now in the CRCF framework development. How will they work with the baseline? It's like one of the biggest issues and discussions that is going on now, but it will be very important in how the CRCF will boost or not boost the market, I think. And also maybe to add on it, it's a private market, so it's, of course, companies only want to pay for additional carbon storage. So we also see a role for local but also European policies to also value the carbon that is already stored in the soils. So that could also be a way to ensure that the work that has been already done to also reward it and ensure that we don't lose the carbon that's already in the soil.
Yeah, I know, but for that we really need certification and an EU framework, because it's a bit difficult to explain. And that is, businesses, the buyers, like it to be additional. They want to see the influence of and then it's a bit more difficult sometimes to explain that farmers do something to avoid emissions. So avoidance is a bit more difficult to explain than sequestering.
Okay, I hope that was a bit of an answer to the question. I think so. There's another question. Thanks for presenting the two cases. There's quite a big difference in price setting. 70 euros per ton in Belgium and 140 euros in the Netherlands. Are there any reasons for that? I don't know who wants to respond to this one. Maybe Christophe.
Well, I couldn't point out the exact reason. I know when I started working with Claire that they said, and afterwards when we benchmarked it to different companies, that we thought 70 euro was already quite high. But for example, bigger companies who benchmarked us said it was a price which was really acceptable. So on the other hand, for some smaller companies, when they give 70 euro to us, they have, for example, already 20 trees in Africa. You see, they make that difference. So we keep it for the moment at 70 euro.
I think also the difference is, Marion, that the measurement for the carbon and the soil measurements are included in your price. And in the case of Claire, the farmers take soil samples. Most of the time they already have the ones that are necessary. Sometimes they have to take additional samples. So this is also a bit maybe an explanation for the difference.
Well, and maybe also how we set this price, because it's difficult, like Christophe says, how to set a price for the farmer, and also for this 40 euros. Because this 40 euros that we need for each ton CO2 to do the complete organization, etc., it also doesn't. It's not enough to cover all the costs, especially the upfront cost, because all the costs, you can imagine that all this communication, explaining how it works, organizing all these information meetings, connecting, etc., it costs more than 40 euros. But we thought, and we do it with project money, but we thought we have to really explain that this really costs something, and companies understand it. And then this 100 euros for a ton CO2 for the farmer, we set this price in a meeting with the first farmers, our first project, and we discussed with the farmers for what would be for you like a reward or a payment for which you would be willing to change things. So it's an incentive for change. And then, because the one farmer is doing this, the other farmer is doing that. I mean, it's difficult. Cover crops serve more purposes. So how to come to like this, but then, in this meeting, several meetings, the first buyers were also present in these meetings. We came up with 100 euros for a ton. And it's not easy to make it, we think, to make it. And also in the Netherlands, it's already like, now it's already like 100 euros for a farmer for a ton CO2. For local carbon credits, it's also like already like normal. And when we started with it 4 years ago, all people said, "Oh, you're crazy. 100 euros is much too much." They're never going to pay it. But of course, we do need to do a lot of storytelling.
Well, I want to add. I just want to add that it's not a secret that within Claire we also think of dynamic pricing, depending on the project and the capital investment that's needed for the farmer to do the technique. So it's not that we already use it, but it's something that comes up regularly amongst the people of Claire to also think of a dynamic pricing approach.
And then we also sometimes have discussions with, or meetings with, organizations that sell credits, international and etc., because they're also interested in national carbon certificates. And then they are not willing to pay us 140 euros for a ton CO2. So we don't cooperate yet with those other intermediaries because they say it's too expensive for them.
Okay. Interesting discussion, I think, and price setting is very challenging on this topic, especially because the market is still growing, and especially with the CRCF, that's not set in stone yet. So we'll see what the future brings, I think. Okay, I don't see any more additional questions. Of course, if something pops up later on, you know where to find me, and I suppose maybe Marion and Christophe also. I want to wrap up this session. Just so you know, you can rewatch all the webinars on the different thematic areas on the YouTube channel. It's a collaborative channel from two projects. We have the Climate Smart Advisors project, but then we also have our big sister, the Climate Farm Demo projects, which is more communicating towards farmers in Europe. And there you can find a lot of interesting webinars and similar things like today. So feel free to watch this webinar again there or share it later on. Of course, in the future, I will organize or host other webinars like this. The last webinar was in November last year, where we discussed the developments on the CRCF. There I collected some ideas or questions, so that's already inputs for future webinars, I suppose. But I wanted to ask all participants, it's a very short questionnaire, very short, to share your feedback on the webinar, on the content, and also if you have your own work that you want to share, like Marion and Christophe did today, you can let me know there, and maybe we can put together different cases like today to make one webinar on a similar topic. It shouldn't always be about carbon farming. It can be a lot more, as long as it entails a reward or financial reward for the farmers involved. Then we can host something similar. So you can just scan the QR code, and it's, I think, 4 or 5 questions to let us know if this webinar is something that's interesting for you or not, and how you see the future. And I want to wrap up now, and especially thank Christophe and Marion for your time and to share your your experience, your lessons learned with this group. And hopefully maybe we can see further collaborations between the two of you also, and further discussions. So thank you, and see you in a future webinar, perhaps.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye bye.